again, Cantaloupe here, chronicling an ongoing work in progress that I have made quite a few videos about at this point. It's an asset hosting service similar to ones you may have seen online for videos, images, that kind of content. It's something I plan on using myself quite a bit because I've had difficulties with existing ones, and in fact I've made something very similar to this in the past, and it had some great features, the one I made, but this one's a little better. It's an improvement, predictably, because I've learned a lot since then. The last one was made over 10 years ago, but this one's got a lot more cool stuff in it. So I'm going to just keep moving along with these videos and catch you up to where I'm at in the process, and hopefully you can pick up some gems from what I share. So here we go. Where I left off before, I was creating some features like multi-file uploads and documenting or describing how that can happen, especially with regard to the database, and handling progress bars, showing individual file progress when you upload groups of files, that kind of thing. And that's all been done for a while. So now I'm jumping back into a video because I need to cover a few things that I've implemented since then. For example, I've gotten to the point where I've allowed uploads via URL, which you may have seen, or perhaps not. It's kind of a rarity. A lot of people haven't seen it. It's when you upload a file on a lot of websites, there's a field where you could, if you wanted to, instead of selecting a local file from your device, you can actually just paste in a link to something else online, and there's usually a way to do that without the field, without the URL field. You can save the file locally if you're able to get to it. You can usually just save it locally and then upload it as a local file. But the field saves you that step. It's just instead of having to do two steps, it just lets you paste the link in directly, and the server, the back-end server for the tool that you're uploading to, will go directly to that source, or wherever it is, if it's able to. And I'm going to describe a couple of edge cases where it doesn't completely work. So you sometimes still have to save the file locally, but most of the time it'll work. Recent web technology has seen the advent of some types of protection, some server options that are fairly new, or at least weren't widely implemented before. You can block a lot of things, a lot of types of requests and access, or any kind of access at the server, and some sites do that just out of precaution. They usually, it's a big conversation. There's two schools of thought with regard to server security and administration. There's a permissive ideology, and there's a restrictive, I guess would be the other way. And the permissive is more about functionality. You're not so much concerned about possibly somebody abusing it. You assume that they're going to be responsible most of the time, and you prepare and anticipate edge cases or abuses. Obviously, you have to do that a little bit, but the alternative is to expect failure to some degree, or to assume that every person that visits your site might be up to no good, and if they're not, then you give them a white list of activities or behaviors that they're allowed to do, and you very carefully unlock things in channels, so to speak. That's a bad model for a lot of reasons, and this is again a big conversation, and it's not even really the main focus of this video. But the problem you have with the restrictive mode is you have a shrinking surface of usability at that point. If you're reacting to every problem as if it's going to be an ongoing problem, or if you're anticipating problems that may never happen, you end up with every new policy, with every period of time, you have a shrinking usability or surface of freedom that people can actually do, or use your site or tool or whatever. Anyway, not to digress too much into that, but my hopefully it's obvious that my perspective is more permissive than restrictive, and I'm assuming success first and foremost in everything I do, everything I make. I've said previously I'm not naive. I know that people will abuse things, and you have to prepare for that. But to expect it kind of creates the problem, and it also has the diminishing effect that I just described. So anyway, with that said, I allow a lot of stuff, and if I need to block individuals, that's one thing. But I have implemented now an admin panel. It's kind of a rough administrative panel. It's kind of just shows me some key data points, an overview of what's happening on the hosting site that I'm talking about. And something interesting about this framework, this app, I guess, that I'm making, is that it's super simple to deploy. It's a kind of a general purpose website, which is a great feature of something that's modular. Recent modern web technologies are all kind of built around this core concept of modularity and transportability, so that you can plug and play either a piece of it or the whole thing. And I've really kind of run with that idea in this project. And the opportunity here is that it can, and actually already has been, deployed on a great number of servers. Not, I say a great number, a dozen or so for testing purposes at this point, but potentially a lot more. And the idea is, if it's that easy to deploy, and it is open source, potentially somebody could deploy it. And they're going to need a way to really easily and almost effortlessly monitor what's going on, because people are. It's the way it's designed is it's anonymous registration. People can upload any content. There are no blacklists or restrictions. Like I said, it anticipates success mainly, and without an ability to kind of just have a bird's eye view of what's happening on the server. There's a lot of opacity there, and a lot of almost an irresponsible potential for abuse. And I'm not trying to do that. Okay, I just want to go on record saying that I'm not trying to create an attractive nuisance. That's the last thing I want to do, because that hurts the cause, if there is a cause. So what I'm trying to do is make it really easy to manage. So what the admin panel is doing at this point is it gives me some data points, like the size, the footprint on disk. That's an important one, not so much for security or managing abuse, but just resource management. How many, how much free space is left, that kind of thing. If you have no way to check that easily, you don't really know. I mean, what if you get a rush of users who all upload a bunch of big files? You wouldn't even know necessarily if you didn't have a way to look at it. So this gives you that, among other things, a way to just look at how much disk space you're using. So, other interesting points that just are kind of off the top of my head to include are like, currently it shows all the assets, the actual files. I've spoken previously how this system will only keep one copy of each asset or resource, each file basically, and that's because you don't need more than one, even if multiple users or even a single user has multiple uploads with that particular file. And I'm not going to go all into that again, but there's no reason you need redundancy, backups notwithstanding. So the admin panel gives you a view of all the actual on-disk individual resources. So it's it's totally unique, because there's no other way to look at that without, going into FTP or whatever and actually examining the disk, and that's super inconvenient. So you can actually just do it right through the website. If you're logged in, if you create an account, and that user in this app has admin privileges, a button is configured to appear automatically in the corner, and they click it, and it's just going to give them all this data. And there's it's locked down. I mean, this part is secure so that the backend won't even consider providing any sensitive or any admin data from this script unless you are authenticated and you're an admin. And it does several checks to make sure that that's accurate, and it's as secure as it can be at this time. So anyway, the other data points, it shows, of course, the number of users and what their avatars are, so that you don't necessarily need to see that a resource it represents an abuse. You can kind of actually begin to intuit that a new user is up to no good. If they are, just kind of by some clues, and this is a great way to kind of just like check in, get the pulse of what's going on in the community. So you can see one of the data points is how many uploads, how much size they're using, their username, for example. So if they have a weird hostile name and a profane or obscene avatar, because they can set their own avatar, it's just clues that you might want to notice, and this gives you the opportunity to just take a quick view of what's going on. And a lot of information. So I have, like I said, about a dozen of these rolled out just for testing purposes, and as I'm developing the code, my upload script, my deployment script, when I'm building the project, so like every time I make any kind of change, I push the source to my Google Cloud Shell, which runs a deployment or build and deployment script. They're combined, and it begins to deploy to everything. And I just let it do that because I don't need to let it finish necessarily. So every time I push a change, I can just cancel the deployment process. And so the machines at the end of the list, for example, aren't frequently updated. But if at the end of the day I'm at a working stopping point where everything's functioning, I just let the script finish, and then everything has the update. So I don't have to do anything special to push to all the servers. It's just part of the normal script, which is, I think, kind of a useful way to do it. It's almost a distributed system. If you know anything about the idea of parallel computing, that's another huge subject, and I'd love to get into it, but this is beyond the scope of this video. If you're familiar with distributed, it's like point-to-point or peer-to-peer computing. This is the basis for blockchain technology, and again, so I'm throwing out some terms that may be familiar, may not be familiar. I have a whole bunch of servers that could very well share a database, or even the files themselves. They could be distributed somehow, and they're not doing that yet, obviously, but I'm kind of laying the foundation for supporting that at some point. So, and also with the ease of deployment that I spoke about, these servers can be spun up almost immediately. So if you know how to deploy it, now I could make it like push button easy, and I'm not sure I want to go to that part. I don't want somebody who isn't comfortable with managing this technology, or doesn't have the mental wherewithal to supervise it, to just be able to click something and unleash basically what they can't understand or aren't able or willing to manage. So a very small, reasonable barrier to entry is sometimes appropriate. Kind of a digression, but it could be push button easy, and I may or may not do that at some point. But it's almost already there. It's to deploy this thing. I just download the script and build it and push it to any kind of server, and it's already operating. So it also needs a database, so you need to know how to do that. But it can install its own database too. Anyway, that's almost a 15-minute dissertation. I didn't even really touch all the points I wanted. So I've got the progress bars are set up. They're finished and working for uploads. I implemented the URL field so that a single resource can be downloaded directly from the server by the server at the prompt of the user. I am in the process of finishing implementing the admin panel so that this thing can be, managed and supervised. And what's left on my list is to implement comments, voting, some kind of social media stuff, and that includes thumbnails or cards, as they're called, for the common sites, like Facebook, Twitter, that kind of thing. They've got their own little protocols for displaying things, and that's pretty simple to do. And then voting is also on my list. I want to be able to have community members upvote or downvote things, and I think that's actually the kind of the best part of these sort of tools, where people can have some fun with it. And the comments, if you're familiar with Imgur, some of the comments people leave on the posts are really funny. It's kind of why I go there. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and look forward to telling you about this project as I move forward, and hopefully as I finish it. Thank you.
you.